everyone. I am very excited to host alumni interviews of the VC Lab program, where we speak with some of the most promising and interesting new managers that have emerged from the VC Lab program. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by Isabel and Bryan. We can go either way, Bryan and Isabel. And they have an amazing fund that just completed VC Lab cohort 3. To just kick it off, if you guys want to give a synopsis of your thesis, I would love to share it with everyone, and then we'll jump into some other questions from there.
Sure, why don't I start it off? So our thesis is we're a $5 million pre-seed fund investing in Black entrepreneurs in clean tech, leveraging the manager's expertise and networks and closing companies for 9 times valuation increases. So we're investing in that space that's that intersection of climate responsibility and social responsibility. So we think it's a great space to be in.
Isabel, do you want to add anything to that?
Actually, Bryan covered it perfectly. So that is truly our thesis and what we're focused on. And our mission overall is that we start and we continue to do good for people and do good for the planet.
A lot of which is needed these days. As I'm in California, I had to turn the lights on during the day because there's so much smoke from wildfires, and a lot of what you're talking about with renewables and clean energy, et cetera, are going to help combat some of the raw causes of global warming and ergo the fires, et cetera. When did you realize that you were interested in venture capital and wanted to pursue this thesis? And whoever wants to take that first.
I'll take that because I know the date. So it was actually February 5th, where Bryan and I had a dinner together, the whole family. And I shared with him a stat that I learned from Sarah Blakely's video that only 2.8% of VC funds was given to women entrepreneurs. He retorted back with, well, did you know that only 0.67% are given to Black entrepreneurs? Did I just say women entrepreneurs? That's what I was meaning. So Sarah Blakely made the comment. Okay. So when he came back with that, we both looked at each other and said, this is not fair. What is wrong with this? That, we have to do something about it. But little did we know about venture capital at all. The next day, Bryan sends me a message and says, guess what just landed in my inbox? And it was an invite to VC Lab to join cohort 3. And I think we had only about 6 days to submit an application, which included a 2-minute video. And we did it. We went forward. We did an amazing job, I think, because obviously we got accepted into the program. Out of 2,000 people, we made the cut of 200. And out of those 200, I believe it's 67 that graduated. So we're still here.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe it was just around 70 exactly. I should know those stats.
So that's it in a nutshell. And going through the process, we just really learned that we can make a greater impact. And that's what our mission is, to make the best impact that we can.
Bryan, when did you realize you were interested in VC?
I mean, that dinner that we had together, where our families got together, that was the thing that kicked it off. I mean, I started exploring it just a little bit before that. That's where I found that stat. I mean, I think it was in December last year. I was just really doing some soul searching with my business and said, my business is focused on sustainability, but it just doesn't have enough impact. One company can only do so much. How can I amplify this? How can I make a bigger difference faster? And that's when I started exploring venture capital. I mean, it wasn't an area, I knew it from a little bit from trying to get investment dollars into my business, but not from what it takes. And just got excited about it and, excited to be part of the program. Mm-hmm.
So you had been on the other side of the table, Bryan. You had been, looking to raise capital, potentially working with VCs to get capital into your company. So you'd come really from a bit of the corporate and from the entrepreneurial angle. Is there anything else about your background that, you felt made you suited for venture capital or particularly interested in venture capital?
The other thing I would say that made me interested, well, one, the clean tech sector. I've been in that sector specifically for 10 plus years and 30 years in the energy industry. So it's an area I know well, and it's an area where I can see lots of needs for improvement and where it can make a difference. But it's being a entrepreneur and started 4 or 5 different companies. The part I knew I enjoyed was helping companies grow, right? And then when it got to a certain size, I'd be happy to turn that over to somebody else. So that was the part that venture capital got me interested. We wanted to be, and the way we were focused with our fund is we work very closely with the entrepreneurs from a strategic direction. And that's the part that excites me. Today I can be working on something on carbon capture. Tomorrow it could be in the aquaponics industry and looking for sustainable fish sources. So that part, I enjoy that, being all these different areas, and that for me is exciting. So that's the other part that I would say for me that makes why I like doing this. Mm-hmm.
Isabel, and you, anything from your background that when you got into venture capital, it clicked really well?
For me, it was really the fact that I'm very multidimensional. So I have a lot of different interests, and as Bryan knows, I just bounce around, and I love to have my hands in doing different things. I've hosted fashion shows. I've, fundraised for our baseball league, which is how we met. But I have a lot of different interests in building businesses. I'm able to help each individual business build and make an impact in that sector. And then I can jump to the next and I can advise there. So that's probably the piece that really excited me the most, is that I'll be able to work with many different companies that can make a different impact in different areas.
Amazing. So, okay. Venture capital is probably one of the most obtuse, oblique, invisible industries out there in the world today. They're terms that are really confusing. The same term can mean different things based on who you say it to. A lot of the accounting practices are squirreled away and hidden. So what are some of the things that surprised you? And if you have a lot of them, you can maybe do your top 3, but what are some of the things that surprised you about venture capital when you started entering the industry?
I'll say one of the surprises is exactly what you said. There's no standards. There's no one way of doing it. I think that probably was the biggest surprise. I thought it was something that's been around for a long time, would be much more, I guess, disciplined in terms of how things work, and it doesn't work that way. I mean, I think that was one of my biggest surprises going in about the industry overall. The other parts to it too was I was surprised at how much I actually enjoy now going out and fundraising, and asking people for money, right? It took something at the beginning to not be attached to it, but it's like, no, okay, fine, next, right? So it's like I'm enjoying going asking people for money, and I would have never imagined that if you had asked me that 6 or 7 months ago. So that's been a big surprise.
Well, can let's dive into that, because candidly, raising a venture capital fund, and Isabel, we'll get your answer to the surprise question in a minute, is one of the hardest things that you can do. You have to pitch more people than anyone else has to normally pitch, and until you're super successful, right, as a VC, and then it's easier. But in the beginning, it's super hard. The terms are hard. The legal stuff is hard. The corralling the investors is hard. I mean, everything about it is hard. So you say that you really enjoy it. Maybe let's just dive into that. What are some of the things that you might impart on a new manager that help you get to a place where you enjoy it versus maybe not enjoying it?
I mean, the biggest thing, it's not personal, right? If you take it personally, then you're into a lot of trouble, but the more you can detach yourself from that part of it, that's where you get to enjoy it. For me, it's also remembering why I'm doing it, right? It's the difference it's going to make. It's the difference in the planet. So to me, I'm raising money to go into this fund to invest into other companies. Yes, of course, obviously we want to make something off it. It'd be silly to say I wouldn't. That isn't a part of it, but it's remembering that and just, not being attached. It doesn't, if somebody says no, it could be they woke up in the wrong side of the bed and got in a fight with their spouse this morning. And so they're going to say no to everything that day. So it doesn't matter, right? And the more no's you get, it's like, okay, what else do we need to change? How do we refine it? How do we make it better, right? And then it turns into a game. The more you can turn it into a game, the more fun it can be. And so that's what, it's like, how can we get this done? Okay, who's the next person I can talk to? Who can make me talk? Who can introduce me to the next person to talk to the next person? So that's one way to approach it. And
I love it.
The better.
Don't take it personally.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it like a game. How to get more yeses, more intros, how to overcome more. Yeah, that's great. Beautiful advice. In fact, man, I should probably take. I will say that we've been very successful in fundraising. We've taken a very similar approach to that. I want to go back to the earlier question, Isabel, with you. What surprised you about the industry, positive or negative, when you came into it?
Well, number one were the terms. I was not familiar with the terms. So Brian and I had even started a little glossary just to define everything that was coming up for us. Because again, we don't come from the financial industry. So learning, this was it was a cram course because we only did this in 4 weeks. So I would say the terms were really big for me. But also the relationships. I think the relationships that we made, which actually leads into the fundraising piece here. But what I found is we got to really know a lot of our colleagues that were in the course as well, and learning about their fund. We had the individual groups that you set up. We were in the alphas, of course, and our alpha group, we covered a lot of different industries. So when we began our fundraising pitches, we realized, okay, so maybe this is not the fund for you, but we do know somebody that we can refer you to, or vice versa, that it would be a good match for. So that piece, I think, was big for me.
So I'm going to just switch gears now from, we talked a little bit about the industry, I'd love to hear, you've been looking at deals from what I understand, and, you are also new to the venture capital community, but you have experience in the clean tech and energy side. So how have you been finding deals, and how have you been thinking about the process to invest in them?
So finding deals for us surprisingly has been very easy so far. We've, both Isabel and I are in a number of different accelerators as advisors, whether it's university accelerators, with the University of Toronto, with Ryerson University, also Founder Institute, that accelerator, and different climate venture groups I'm part of. So we are seeing deals that I call well curated. They've gone through some rigor. These companies have gone beyond just a simple idea. They've had to prove themselves and get through these accelerators. So we're finding access to some great deals. The good, but then the bad side of it, looking at Black entrepreneurs, they are overlooked, right? And the sad part is, people have passed up what I think are excellent companies, right? These are companies that have been bootstrapped. They are at technology readiness levels that are higher than you would expect at a pre-seed stage. They're probably, some of them even have customer traction. So that fact of looking at those types of founders gives us access to a lot of deals that, I said others have gone by. So we're finding that. And then the part where you're asking about how do we assess these? I mean, first and foremost, we look, does one of the founders or co-founders self-identify as Black? We're not doing any special tests or anything. If they self-identify that way, great. We know they've been overlooked. And then the other piece is, as Isabel mentioned before, is it good for people? Good for the planet. We're looking at specifically at that and then the clean tech side. And then we go deeper. We have venture partners that help us do the financial analysis. We have advisors through the University of Toronto, through Howard University in the US that also help us go deeper into technical details if we need that, plus my own expertise and background. And then Isabel especially, and I contribute to that. We look a lot at this early stage at the founders. What's their character like? Are they coachable, right? Obviously they need to have a strong mind, a strong idea and where they're going, but are they willing to take advice and listen to strategic direction? And so that's a big part of what we personally bring to the team of, analyzing and looking those founders and what they're capable of. Mm-hmm.
Well, first, I wish all venture capitalists sounded like you guys. A lot of them are not so humble and thoughtful about things. One of the things that I will say that you brought up is about these minority founders being overlooked, particularly Black founders in Canada and in the United States being overlooked. And we had a discussion the other day that some of the biggest funds in the world, in like Sequoia even or others, when Sequoia started, there wasn't really a big venture capital community. They were one of the first. And first mover advantage creates a platform upon which these funds grow over decades. So if there's an overlooked group of people that have great companies and you're a first mover in that space, which you are, you guys can be the creator of a great fund over decades. So anything else you'd like to add to the process, Isabel? Because that was a pretty extensive outline from
Yes. Yeah, Bryan is great at putting it all together. The only thing that I'll really add is working now with the companies. And like you said, we work with the founders to make sure that their heart is in the right place, because it's about people. People are doing business with people. And another piece that keeps coming up for me is, are they resilient enough? Because you're going to get the 100, 200, maybe 300 no's to get that yes. And can they actually stick it out? This morning, for example, I've been up for a couple hours already and have had multiple conversations with, I think, founders in 3 different states already. So it's about helping them through and guiding them, and the other thing is, it's not just the business, because personal, as we know, as an entrepreneur, it does sift in. So we need to be sure that our founders are being taken care of on a personal level as well as on the business side.
That's beautiful. It's very hard to be a founder. I am currently on both sides of the table. So I literally know both sides. And yeah, it's the world. It's difficult as a venture capitalist for sure, but it's different kind of difficult being a founder. I wanted to go back on one thing you said, Adeo, and that piece about being that first mover. We're seeing that. We've had conversations just in the last week where we're seeing some other investment firms, an Archangel Angel Network, Keiretsu Forum, BDC, Business Development Canada. They've all come to us now and said, we'd like to invest alongside with you because we don't know where to go get these great minority founders, and we love what you're finding. So yeah, you're saying being that first mover. Now we've got 3 big companies that said, yes, we're ready to invest alongside you in what you go into. So that, yeah, we are breaking ground here. I love that. You guys gave me goosebumps. I know, like, this is great. And I feel it. Like, I feel the magic coming around you guys to achieve success. And that's so encouraging. Couple last quick questions. So, you mentioned how you heard about VC Lab. You got our email. We sent it to different mentors and stakeholders around the world. What made you, and you had like this small window of time to decide to come in. What made you decide to apply? What was that moment? Were you just like, fine, let's do it, or was there some
I think Bryan and I are pretty similar in the fact that when we get something that lands in our lap, we just jump, we go. I went cliff diving just a couple of weeks ago, and the kids that were up there, because they were only teenagers, and me, 48-year-old, They said, you were the one who jumped the quickest. You didn't stall, you didn't wait. No, we just jump and we build the parachute on the way down.
Do you want to add anything? Well, that's great. I mean, and listen, we need people jumping to fix the problems of the world. And, you're fixing two big problems with your fund, right? Some form of either bias or discrimination, depending on how you look at it and the circumstances. And then, some form of renewal, sustainable energy, et cetera. So this is like win-win. But Bryan, anything you want to add?
Yeah, the piece I would add to that is, I enjoy teaching and I enjoy being a student. And to me is when I started looking at venture funds and when Isabel and I, before Isabel and I had that dinner conversation, it was, okay, where do I start? How do I do this, right? If I came from a VC background, maybe I'd have some idea. Though I'll say, to toot our own horn a little bit, I know some of the people that came from the VC background and going through VC labs struggle a little bit more because they have preconceived notions, where Isabel and I came in with blank slates. But what really turned me on about the program is there's someone that's going to take the time to teach us how to do this and take us through that nebulous industry where you can't find out a lot of details. I'm on board, right? So to me, it's like, we were the students that were ready and the teacher came along. So that's what it was for us. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, we're trying to reinvent the wheel a little bit too, because we know some best practices in the industry that really are not constructive. And so we're really trying to retool the industry so that every component of everything that's done is constructive. Final question for you guys. Either one can, and I'd like both of you to answer it, is as a new manager coming into the field of venture capital, and we're seeing really a renaissance of venture capital right now with amazing people all around the world looking to start venture capital firms. What is one or two pieces of seminal advice that you would give someone that you wish maybe you had when you entered only a few months ago?
Block your schedule. Block your schedule for the work, especially if you're entering into the cohort. I would say it's really about making the time to be able to learn and do the work, because everything is strategically placed and presented in a way that just builds upon the next. So if you fall behind even 1 week, it's literally months worth of information that you're going to be falling back on. So I would really say about blocking your time.
The other piece I would add to that, I fully agree with what Isabel said. The other piece adding is utilize your team, right? So the teams you're put into, utilize that team, utilize that expertise. As we were sort of brand new managers, didn't have any experience in the industry, we found others in our team had some experience. So that was a big piece. Making office hours with yourself and Mike, that was also huge. That's a big thing. And I guess a lot of things for first-time managers, and I'd say not so much for ourselves, but for what I saw others going through the program. For the 14, 16 weeks that you're in the program, I'd say suspend some of the things that you know already and you believe and assume that this is the way how to do it, and go into the program fresh and absorb everything. Take all those pieces, and then at the end of it, you can discard, well, that didn't work for me, I can discard this, or this worked, take that in. But the more you can go in fresh and willing to absorb things, the easier it'll be to go through the course, rather than trying to fight against something because you don't think that's exactly right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, a lot of what you guys are working on, like taking people that didn't quite have opportunities of looking at sustainable things that may not have had a market before, you have to suspend disbelief and look and try and see opportunities that others may not have. And I think that's really beautiful. And I commend you guys for building a fund that the world needs right now. It's a biracial, two different sexes. You guys have everything in your fund that I would like to see more funds have in their leadership. all around the world. So for me, it's really an honor to be helping and working with you guys as much as we are, and to see you succeed and really change the face of venture capital in Canada and maybe beyond in future funds.
Well, the love is mutual, Adeo. You know, you were the teacher who showed up and was willing to open up and give us so much knowledge worth. I just feel, like I said, so everything was so compacted, and we could have never done what we did without you.
Well, it's the beginning, right? And we're going to just keep working together to help one another change the world for the better. So guys, thank you so much for your time today. This was awesome. We got it done in exactly half an hour, which is sort of my target. So thank you and have a lovely day.
You too.
Thank you. Have a great
Thanks
one.
very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.